We are continuing to follow that breaking news as President Trump has ordered the federal takeover of D.C. police and is moving National Guard troops into the district. Welcome back. I'm Susan Tran.
And I'm Mark Hall. Chris Flanagan has tonight off. We're talking about 800 National Guard members. They were activated today, and it's a move that Mayor Bowser is calling unsettling. But the president says it's needed to crack down on crime.
You don't want to get mugged and raped and shot and killed. So you can be anything you want, but you want to have safety in the streets.
Now, he was able to do this by invoking Section 740 of the D.C. Home Rule Act. This allows him to take over the police department for more than 48 hours. Now, if he wants to maintain control for more than 30 days, the president will need to get approval from Congress. And we're getting some analysis about President Trump's unprecedented move, Susan, with taking over D.C.'s police department and also deploying the National Guard.
That's right. We are joined by New York Law School professor Kirk Burkhalter, who is also a retired New York City police detective. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor.
My pleasure.
All right, we're talking about two separate entities here besides the D.C. police, also the National Guard. I just want to focus a little bit on the National Guard. The Defense Secretary says 200, up to 200 of the 800 will help support law enforcement. What could that look like legally? Will they be able to make arrests? Will they do patrols? Are they trained for this type of mission?
Well, the quick answer is probably no for your first couple of questions. However, we have seen this before. For instance, here in New York, it's not uncommon to see the National Guard or military personnel manning our major transportation hubs, airports, train stations, Penn stations, and so forth, and also really crowded areas such as 42nd Street, where Broadway and all the plays are. But they are not there to make arrests necessarily. Of course, they will intercede if they see something, but they are there primarily as a deterrent. So you have to be authorized by the state or whatever jurisdiction you're in order to work in a law enforcement capacity and take people into custody and bring them before the court and so forth. So they're not really trained to do so. Most police officers are trained for 6 months to a year, mostly 6 months. So at this point, deterrent and a show of force, I see those as the two primary responsibilities of the National Guard.
Professor, you talk about a show of force. Last Thursday, the president dispatched federal officers onto D.C. streets. Now, with today's announcement, what should families expect? Will it resemble a police state, or will it just look like more men and women in uniform in neighborhoods?
I think more men and women in uniforms. When we think of police state, and needless to say, this is in the eye of the beholder. However, generally speaking, when we think of police state, we think of military personnel on every single corner. What is interesting, just to use a phrase, is what neighborhoods you will see these folks in. Now, according to the statement from the White House, we'll see this around the various monuments and federal grounds, national parks, and so forth. But also, we know that these troops will be deployed in areas where there have been spikes in crime, and those tend to be areas that are populated by people of color, people of lower economic, that occupy the lower economic spectrum. So that will be interesting. Whether or not they will feel like it's a police state, given where the activity will be localized, remains to be seen. I would say it's kind of somewhere in the middle.
Okay, so Professor, since D.C. is this unique jurisdiction, can D.C. police deputize any of these National Guardsmen? Does the city even have any recourse here? It's governed by home rule. Congress has a say in what happens in D.C. as well. So is there any pushback for our local lawmakers?
Well, this certainly has to be a collaboration. It's not, you can't muscle your way into some of this. One thing about Washington, D.C. that we know, anybody knows from walking around the city, is on any given day, you see many law enforcement entities working together: the Capitol, the police, the Washington, D.C. police, the Parks Service. So there is some precedent for this. Previously, it's been done. These different entities make all types of arrests for all different types of reasons, not just for federal crimes. So this is done to some extent already. I don't think the police department will have to go as far as to deputize the troops that will be patrolling the streets. Like I mentioned, it'll be more of a deterrent. They'll call folks in. And keep in mind also, the White House mentioned that the FBI and DEA would join in this effort. And certainly those folks don't need to be deputized rather. They already have the powers of arrest.
Thank you so very much, New York Law School Professor Kirk Burkhalter. Thank you so very much for your time, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.